Lumos. Today, we are going to be talking about 6 things that you are probably getting wrong when it comes to Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. This is 6 common misconceptions that people usually put as plot holes, and we're going to talk about how they're not actually plot holes, and you're mostly wrong about why you think this doesn't work in the story. So the 6 things we are going to be talking about today is time turners and how they actually work. This is going to be really complicated. That's why it's the first one. Why Hermione couldn't use the time turner to do more intense things like stop Voldemort. Why Peter Petigrew couldn't change without a wand, but Sirius could. Why the twins didn't see Peter Petigrew on the Marauders map. Is Trelawney truly a fraud? And why the Dementors loved Harry. Did they though? Those are the 6 things we are going to be talking about today. So make sure to stick with us, and we will start now. So first off, let's talk about time travel. It's complicated, I know. So I'm going to try to simplify it as much as I possibly can. And we just got to remember, the Harry Potter Prisoner of Azkaban time travel is in itself its own style of time travel. You have Looper, you have Back to the Future, you have Avengers Endgame. There's all sorts of different time travels. It's used so much in modern media. Sometimes I joke that if a story gets into time travel, it's the jump the shark moment of media. But most of the time it really works if you follow your rules that you set up, which Prisoner of Azkaban sets up rules and it follows those rules. Prisoner of Azkaban mainly follows the bootstrap paradox, though, which is it happened because it happened. There's no, hey, this is where it starts, this is where it ends. The idea of the bootstrap paradox is, say, it's explained really well in Doctor Who, so I'm going to try to explain it a little bit. You go back in time because you're a fan of Beethoven. You take sheet music of Beethoven and go back and go, I'm going to have Beethoven sign my music. So you go back and nobody knows who the hell Beethoven is. So what do? Well, you have Beethoven's music with you. There's no Beethoven, so you in turn become Beethoven himself. The paradox in that is who originally composed the Beethoven music. So in Prisoner of Azkaban, people are like, well, they could have changed, they were changing time, but we hear that it's not. No, that's not how it works. The events that happened in Prisoner of Azkaban always happened. Buckbeak always was taken by Harry and Hermione. Sirius always got away. That is why Dumbledore knew what was happening before they went back the first time. We say the first time, but that's what we see. But it's a constant loop, and Dumbledore was aware of it. We don't know how much Dumbledore was aware of and what he knew, but he knew Buckbeak went missing, knew Hermione had a time turner, and probably put 2 and 2 together of, Hermione has a time turner. I sent them back in time to save Buckbeak, who was innocent, to save Sirius, who is also innocent, so then they can both get away. It always happened. Dumbledore always knew. Dumbledore put them in the time and said, hey, we got to get back at this time, or bad things are going to happen. Not that time is going to be broken, but I need to time this out, so when Sirius is missing, you're not going to get blamed for it. So that is what happens. It is more of a predestination, which then it calls into question, free will, is that real? We're going to push that to the side. We're not talking about free will, but the time turners don't change time. They can't change time. They only create a almost paradox that is always happening. This time loop is always happening. It's not, hey, I'm here living my life, and then you decide to go back in time, and now there's 2 of you. No, there were always 2 of you at that point from when you went back to the end of time, 4th dimensionally speaking. But it is always something that is happening, never something that hasn't happened. I hope that clears it up and isn't even more complicated for you. But the bottom line with this is you cannot change time with a time turner. And I'm sure there's a little asterisk there of comments of people going, but Cursed Child, and what I'm going to say to you is, but Cursed Child is not canon because it does not follow the rules of time turners. Bottom line, it's a totally different universe because it doesn't follow the rules of those time turners. Right there, it shows this is not the same universe because this is not how time turners work. There's rules with time turners. You can only go back 5 hours or bad things happen. You can probably go back further, but the problem with going back further is magic wears off. It's a magic thing. Magic fixes the paradoxes. If you go back in time further, if you build a time turner that goes back in time further, magic can't fix it and bad things happen, which I guess follows the rules in Cursed Child based on the rules of Prisoner of Azkaban. But in the end, I don't see Cursed Child as canon. Those time turners don't work the same way. It's de facto not canon. So now that we explained the basics of time travel, let's explain why Hermione could not go back and stop Voldemort. Well, we've already kind of explained the time turners can only go back 5 hours. They have a restriction on them that only allows them to go back 5 hours. Cool? Cool. You cannot change time. We've already talked about it. It's one of those things, what has happened has happened. But think about it in the way of, there's an event where Voldemort kills Harry. Okay? Voldemort kills Harry. Hermione says, ooh, let me go back in time and prevent Harry from dying. Uses the time turner, goes back in time. She cannot prevent Harry from dying because she has already seen Harry die. Harry has died. It's the catalyst that has put her back in time. The reason they can save Buckbeak is because they only think Buckbeak is dead. Buckbeak never died. If they had seen Buckbeak lose his head, Buckbeak's lost his head, the game is over. You can't save Buckbeak. It's because Buckbeak didn't actually die. They just thought he had died. So then they didn't realize, oh, we can save him. That's, I think, where the confusing factor is, oh, well, they saw Buckbeak die. They didn't see Buckbeak die. They heard the sound of the axe thudding, assuming that the axe was chopping off a head and hitting the ground. But what it was McNair using the axe to hit a pumpkin, which sounds viscerally like a beheading. So they thought Buckbeak had died. Buckbeak never died. The movie makes it even more complicated with, the crows flying off, and you don't really see a lot of the notions that there's someone there, when then you find out, oh no, that was Harry. Harry kind of figures it out, like, oh, I knew I could cast the Patronus because I had seen myself casting the Patronus. So what has happened will always happen, has always happened. If you didn't understand my first breakdown of it, hopefully this is even simpler with this theory. So Hermione could not stop Voldemort with the time turner unless he didn't do it in the first place, which means she wouldn't have gone back in time to stop him from doing it because it never happened. Got it? I hope you do. It's complicated. I get it. You're probably frustrated. You're going to probably have to watch this multiple times. I hope you understand. Now let's move on to something a little bit simpler. Why was Sirius Black able to transform into his Animagus form without a wand, but Peter Pettigrew could not change out of his Animagus form without either the help of Remus and Sirius or a wand himself? Well, with this, we have to get into more of the in-depth Pottermore explanation of the Animagus forms. So when you first become an Animagus, yes, you need your wand. You have to store your wand away to be able to transform later because you need your wand. But as you become more adept in your Animagus form, you are able to change at will. More practiced wizards can change at will, because we've also seen Professor McGonagall can change her form at will. We've only seen it twice in the series. As a whole, more powerful wizards don't need wands. What do we know about Peter Pettigrew? He's not a strong wizard. He always needed help with his transformations from Sirius and James and Remus, and that's why he was able to change himself into his Animagus form with his wand, but then was not able to change out. I'm sure if Molly, Arthur, or one of the Weasley kids left the house without their wand, he probably used it so he could lounge around on the Weasley's couch without them when they're not there. But for the most part, I think he was stuck in a rat form. And he was stuck in a rat form for so long, he started to become just a rat. More than he already was, because he was a rat in the colloquial term of a snitch. But Peter Pettigrew was a weak wizard, and that's why he needed a wand or help to return to his human form or back to his rat form, where Sirius and McGonagall can just change at will. I hope that clears that up a little bit. Now for one of the more contested misconceptions that I see all over the internet. Why didn't Fred and George see Peter Pettigrew on the Marauders map when he was sleeping in bed with Ron? They never questioned, Ron, what are you doing with Peter Petigrew? Wait, wasn't that guy who got murdered by Sirius Black? Like, how is he in your bed? Let's break it down a little bit. The map has small writing. One of the first things Harry remarks on in Prisoner of Azkaban is the writing is very small, and it takes a second for him to even find himself on the map, knowing where he is. Number two, there are a lot of people in Gryffindor, probably about 70 to 80 people in 2 dorms that are spiral stacked on top of each other. So while they're in bed, all you're going to see is a jumble of names that you're probably not going to be able to read very clearly, unless you're looking for something specific. Number 3, Fred and George got the map in their first year, within a couple weeks. So if anything, they would see Peter Pettigrew in Percy's bed before they would see it in Ron's bed. So the question is why didn't they see Peter Pettigrew sleeping with Percy? Well, the point still stands, Gryffindor Tower. Yeah. But how many older characters do we meet later on that we're like, how long? You're who? Cormac McLaggen. I've never heard of you. How are you in the same house and you've never heard of someone? Yes, Fred and George are popular. Everybody knows who Fred and George are. But I bet you there's probably some 6th, 7th, fifth, sixth, seventh, fourth years, whatever, and Fred and George's first year that they did not know. They probably don't know everybody's name. So of course, they're not going to be like, oh, Peter Petigrew. Why is Percy hanging out with some kid named Peter Petigrew? They probably just think, oh, it's another kid in the dorm. They're also not looking at Percy, especially first and second year. They're not going to look at Percy. He's not a prefect. He's not a prefect until their third year, which is Harry and Ron's first year, which at that point, if they're looking for Percy, guess what? He's not with Scabbers. They're not going to be looking for Ron either. Who they're going to be looking for, the people who are going to get them in trouble. So they're probably looking for Snape, looking for McGonagall, looking for Filch, looking for Mrs. Norris. They're not going to be looking at Percy or Ron to figure out where they are. Plus, by Fred and George's third year, I doubt they're really using the map that much. By Fred and George's fifth year, they're probably not even using the map much, because why? They know where all the secret passages are. They know how to evade Filch. So that's why they pass it down. So clearly, they're not using the map that much. They're just like, this, it's not getting any use. You can use it. And Harry uses it. They unwillingly knew that they were giving it to the original creator's son, but the complex idea that, oh, you can't see Marauders on the Marauders map unless you are a Marauder is just too complex. It's a lot simpler than that. Nobody cared who Peter Petigrew was, and Fred and George didn't pay attention to their brothers in the dorm rooms because they were probably off doing something else, paying attention to Argus Filch, Dumbledore, Snape, McGonagall, the people who are going to get them in trouble. So, bottom line, it's a lot simpler than the complex theory of the map is sentient and knows who's reading it. They probably did have a charm that prevented Severus Snape from ever being able to use it, but he was able to use it because he saw on the open map that Lupin forgot to close, how dare he, where Lupin was going and where Sirius and the trio were going. So clearly Snape can use it. It just insults Snape because it's also slightly sentient when he goes, I, Professor Severus Snape, Master of Hogwarts. They're like, pretentious. And a little bit bonus misconception, the way that Fred and George probably found how to get into the map is the map clearly can tell who's using it in some sort of way, and they were probably poking around, and it probably gave them riddles that kind of helped them figure out that all you have to say is, I solemnly swear that I am up to no good. And then it probably also said, once you open it, hey, how do you close it? And it probably popped up somewhere, mischief managed, because it does give passwords to the secret passages. So it would make sense that it would also try to help someone properly trying to use it who is not Snape. So hopefully that clears things up. Let's move on to the next one. Professor Trelawney is not a fraud. She seems like it. Yes, I get it. Like throughout the book, she seems like a fraud. There are points where she even probably thinks that she is a fraud because she's clearly an alcoholic and worried that, you know, people are going to think I'm a fraud. But what if I told you everything that she predicted came true? Yes, she probably does use a little bit of fraudster mentalism to try to make it seem more grandeur, but in most predictions that she makes, she's 100% mostly accurate. She may have the subjects mixed up. For example, she looks at the Patil twin that's in her class and says, beware of a red-headed boy. Well, she probably saw an image of someone who looks like her with Ron Weasley, and someone who looks like her was having a bad time. Someone who looks like her having a bad time with Ron Weasley in the fourth book. In their fourth year, when they go to the Yule Ball, Ron goes with her sister, who looks exactly like her, and has a bad time. So beware a red-headed man. It came true. Looks at Lavender. The thing you most dread will happen on this date. What she probably saw was on that date somehow, or them having the conversation, oh, the thing I most dread will happen on this date. Trelawney was right. Her crying. That's what Trelawney probably saw. So knew the date, knew the thing she most dread. Didn't know what she was dreading, just saw her crying, saying I dread it, saying this is the date. So Trelawney says, this is the date. You will most dread something, and you'll be very upset. Correct. Now, the fraudster in her, Neville Longbottom. Is your gran well? What's wrong with my gran? Neville goes. And then, now he's already nervous. She can tell. He's a nervous Nelly. I don't like your gran, number one. I've met her before. She's kind of a shrew. I have a headcanon that Trelawney and Augusta Longbottom have a history outside of Hogwarts where, you know, they don't get along. So she's like, ooh, Longbottom, is your gran well? And of course, Neville, being the nervous Neville that he is, gets nervous-er. And when he's going to get the teacups, she goes, don't drop one. I like that color. Once you drop it, please get the other color. And of course, now Neville's in his head. He's like, oh, my gran's sick. Oh, I don't want to drop this. Oh, I dropped the cup. Oh, dang it. Mentalism. She made him drop the cup, knowing that he was nervous. So that one, fraudster, looks at Harry. You were born in midwinter. Because probably in her head, what she sees is a dark-haired boy born in midwinter. because of course she has that connection with part of Harry's soul. Her power connects with that. But she doesn't see Harry. She sees Tom when he's born. When is his birthday? Anybody? January 31st, midwinter. So she's not wrong. She's just seeing the wrong person and getting it mixed up. She walks into the dining hall during Christmas and says, "Oh, I can't sit here. That'll make it 13." And then the first one to stand up dies. But what we don't know is there's already 13 at the table because there is a rat in Ron's pocket. And who stood up first? Anybody? Albus, Percival, Wulfric, Brian, Dumbledore. And guess who dies at that table first? Alfred. Alfred? Yeah, Alfred dies. And guess who dies first? Albus, Percival, Wulfric, Brian, Dumbledore. It's a couple of years down the road, yes, but out of everybody at that table, he's still the first one to die. There's another moment, too, that it does happen again. Harry's 17th birthday. There are 13 at a table. A weasel shows up and says, "The minister is coming." And two people get up, Remus and Tonks. And who are the first ones to die out of that group of 13? None other than Remus and Tonks. That one wasn't predicted by Trelawney, but the point still stands that she said, when 13 dine together, the first one to rise will be the first to die. And she's not wrong. Also, in the 6th book, she's walking down the hallways playing with tarot cards, and she predicts that there's a boy who has troubles with the reader. And she's like, "Ha, that's not true. I misshuffled." Nope. You could sense with your tarot cards that Harry was hiding from you. She also has a vision of the lightning-struck tower and knows something bad is going to happen. And then what do we have? We have the dark mark at the tallest tower, looking almost like lightning striking the tallest tower. And what bad thing happens? Because she says the lightning-struck tower means something bad is going to happen. And what bad thing happens? Dumbledore dies. She not only predicts Dumbledore's death once, but she predicts it twice. So there you have it. Professor Trelawney is not a fraud. She is a hustler and uses her gift, but she also uses mentalism and being able to read people to further her grandeur and make it seem as though she is even more all-seeing than she pretends to be. But she does have the gift of a seer. Not only does she make prophecies through the ether into her that are projected out of her, but she makes small predictions. Because clearly divination is real. We know from the centaurs that it's real. They cannot involve themselves with Harry in the Forbidden Forest because they know he is meant to die in the Forbidden Forest to end the upcoming war. That is why they got mad at Firenze, like, for saving him. You know you're not supposed to save Harry in the woods. That's the one thing that we know that we cannot do. We cannot interfere with the war until this prediction has happened. And once it happens and Harry's dead, guess who comes to the aid of the Wizards of Hogwarts? The Centaurs. They help fight the final battle because the prediction has come forth. The war is about to end. Harry has died in the woods like he was predicted to 7 years earlier. So, what do you think? Is Trelawney a fraud or is she not? Let me know. And finally, the misconception that so many people get. It's one of those little fan theories that has grown so big that people just kind of see it as headcanon or just canon in general. The Dementors like Harry because he's got an extra juicy soul. It works. But Dementors feed off of emotion. They feed off of trauma. They want the juicy trauma. They want you to be in agony. They want to feed off the happiness and then feed off your juicy agony. So yeah, Harry has an extra soul, but it's not because he has an extra soul that makes him so juicy, but it's not because he has an extra soul that makes him so appetizing to the Dementors. It's because he's got 2 orphans of trauma built up within him. And if you want more information about the orphan trauma that he goes through, I did post a theory last week. Go check it out. It talks more in depth about why Harry sees what he sees when he's with the Dementors. The Dementors don't truly just go after him. Yeah, they have a higher effect on him, but they just want to feed. And Harry's trauma is delicious to them. He also just seems to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. And because he's affected by the Dementors so badly, it seems as though, oh no, the Dementors just want him. But there's never any evidence that the Dementors are coming after him directly, ever. There's never a moment where it's like they're flying to 2 people and they go to him. Because in Order of the Phoenix, when he is attacked by the Dementors, one Dementor attacks Harry, one Dementor attacks Dudley. But Harry is able to fend it off with a Patronus where Dudley isn't. So there's no proof that the Dementors specifically target Harry, ever. It affects Harry because of something within him, but it's not because he has something within him that the Dementors go after him. Because in the Quidditch match, there were just a lot of Dementors, and they kind of affected everybody, but Harry was on a broom and is affected worse by the Dementors, so he fell off his broom, where most people could relatively function. On the train, the Dementor just saw a bunch of people and probably can also sense guilt. So you have Peter Pettigrew hiding in there, and it's like, someone is guilty in here. I want it. And then Remus sees that Harry is having a reaction to it and is like, yeah, get out of here. We're not hiding Sirius Black under our cloaks. Get the hell out of here, Dementors. So Dementors aren't going after Harry because he has an extra juicy soul. Harry is just affected more by the Dementors, so it seems as though they're going after him. But there is never a moment in the books where they are specifically targeting Harry indirectly. Because in the 5th book, they are specifically targeting Harry because they were ordered to specifically target Harry. But even then, one's attacking Dudley while the other one is attacking Harry. So there is still no evidence showing that, oh, Dementors just really love Harry's extra juicy soul. So hate to break that headcanon for you, but that's it. Harry's not special. Well, he is special, but he's not special to Dementors. So that's it. All right, there you have it. Six things that you were probably getting wrong, and hopefully you will get right now. Hopefully I'm not going to see a bunch of TikTok videos of people going, time travel doesn't make sense in Harry Potter because they could have changed time the entire time in the series because of time turners. No, that's not how it works. You can't change time with time turners. You can't see Peter Pettigrew in the bed with Ron. You can, but Fred and George weren't looking for it. Fred and George weren't going to notice it. It took Ron a couple minutes to realize, oh, Peter Pettigrew, I know that story. Because he's like, I didn't know that. But then he goes later and goes, yeah, no, I remember that. All he got back was his finger because he had to think about it for a while and he kind of jogged his memory. But if he had just seen the name Peter Pettigrew, he'd have been like, oh, I guess it's a first year that I've never heard of. I don't know. I never went to the sorting ceremony. They miss it half the time, so they don't know who the first years are. Maybe it's been a 7th year. Who knows? So let me know what you think. Did I get stuff wrong? Did I not explain it well enough? Do I need to do a whole video on just time travel in media? Because I will. Let me know in the comments down below. And if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure to subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, and we will see you next time. Make sure to stay marvelous, Knox.